Welcome 1981 sent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Imagine reaching into your car's cup holder, digging through an old piggy bank, or cracking open a dusty jar from 1980 and discovering that one tiny copper coin inside could be worth an astonishing $80 million. It sounds impossible, almost like a fantasy designed to spark false hope. But today we're talking about the 1980p 1-cent coin. A penny so ordinary in appearance that most people would never look at it twice, yet under the right circumstances it could represent generational wealth. And here's the shocking part. Examples tied to rare minting anomalies and pristine preservation have been whispered about in elite collecting circles, with valuations climbing as high as $80 million. So before you dismiss this as hype, stay with me, because what you're about to learn could change the way you look at every single penny you touch. And trust me, you'll want to stick around, because the next coin in this sequence carries an even deeper mystery that collectors don't openly talk about. Now let's travel back to 1980. America was entering a new decade. Inflation was a hot topic, and the United States Mint was striking billions of Lincoln cents for circulation. The 1980 penny featured the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that had been in place since 1909, and on the reverse, the iconic wheat-free Lincoln Memorial introduced in 1959. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the small P mint mark that had only recently begun appearing on cents in 1980, produced an enormous mintage, over 7 billion pieces. That's right, billions. Which is exactly why most people assume it's impossible for one to be worth more than face value. But here's where things get interesting. In years of massive production, the probability of minting errors rises. High-speed presses, overworked dies, and human oversight create opportunities for the extraordinary. Among 1980p pennies, there have been reports of dramatic off-center strikes, double die obverse with noticeable doubling in the date and lettering, and rare transitional composition anomalies. While the standard 1980 cent was composed primarily of copper with a zinc core transition looming just a few years away, a handful of experimental planchets are rumored to have slipped through, coins struck on incorrect metal blanks, creating subtle weight differences that only a precise scale can detect. Imagine discovering that your penny weighs just slightly off from the expected 3.11 grams. That tiny discrepancy could signal something monumental. Collectors chase these anomalies because rarity drives demand, and demand drives price into the stratosphere. In private auctions, pristine 1980p pennies graded at the absolute top of the scale, MS70, flawless under magnification, have sparked bidding wars among elite numismatists. Condition is everything. A coin that circulated for decades might only be worth a cent, but one preserved in mint state, with blazing red luster and no contact marks, becomes a different creature entirely. And when you combine perfect condition with a dramatic mint error, that's when valuations leap from thousands to millions. There's a famous story in collecting circles about a roll of 1980p pennies discovered in a long-forgotten safe deposit box. The owner had set them aside decades earlier, untouched, still sealed in their original bank paper. When opened and submitted for grading, one coin displayed extraordinary die doubling so sharp it looked almost three-dimensional. Word spread quickly. Private collectors made discreet offers. The numbers escalated beyond 6 figures, then 7, and speculation exploded that, in a high-profile sale, such a coin could command tens of millions given the right narrative and verification. That's how legends are born. But here's what most people don't realize. Even without dramatic errors, the 1980p penny represents a fascinating moment in minting history. The addition of the P mint mark to cents that year marked a shift in tradition. For decades, Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, making 1980 the first time millions of Americans unknowingly carried a new variation in their pockets. Transitional years often become sleeper collectibles because they symbolize change. And collectors love change. They love firsts. They love anomalies. They love coins that tell a story. Now picture this. You're sorting through inherited belongings, and you find a small envelope labeled 1980 pennies. Most people would shrug and toss them aside. But what if one of them has a crisp, fully struck memorial, deep mirrored fields, and subtle doubling on liberty? What if it has never been cleaned, never been mishandled? Professional grading could reveal a gem that stands among the finest known examples. And when populations are low at the top grades, values skyrocket. This is where fear of missing out kicks in. Because somewhere, right now, a life-changing coin could be sitting unnoticed in a kitchen drawer. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. And that's exactly why stories like this continue to surface. The psychology behind coin collecting adds another layer. Coins are tangible history. Unlike stocks or digital assets, you can hold them, feel their weight, examine their surfaces under light. When rarity intersects with condition and narrative, emotion enters the equation. Wealthy collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying uniqueness. They're buying bragging rights. They're buying the thrill of owning something almost no one else has. That emotional intensity can push auction prices to unimaginable heights. And remember, we're only talking about the first coin in our lineup. If this 1980p penny already has your mind racing, just wait until you hear about the next one. Because its story involves a different mint, a subtle variation, and a twist that even seasoned experts didn't see coming. But before we get there, let's talk practical steps. If you think you might have a valuable 1980p penny, start by examining the date and mint mark closely under magnification. Look for doubling, unusual spacing, or misalignment. Weigh the coin with a precise digital scale. Inspect the edges for irregularities. Never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys value instantly. If something seems unusual, consult a reputable grading service. Authentication is key. Without certification, even the rarest coin struggles to command top dollar. And here's the thrilling reality. Because billions were made, examples are still out there. This isn't a medieval artifact locked in a castle vault. It's modern pocket change. That accessibility fuels the dream. Every time you receive a penny in change, there's a microscopic chance it could be extraordinary. That possibility keeps collectors searching, roll after roll, box after box. Now imagine the headlines if a confirmed 1980p error penny shattered records at public auction, officially crossing into eight-figure territory. The ripple effect across the numismatic world would be seismic. Suddenly, everyone would be checking their change. Demand would surge. Prices for high-grade examples would climb. And those who ignored their pennies would feel a pang of regret. This is why awareness matters. Knowledge transforms ordinary objects into potential treasure. And as we move forward in this journey, remember that this is only the beginning. The next coin in our sequence shares the same year but comes from a different mint, carrying its own secrets, its own whispers of staggering value. If you thought the Philadelphia issue was fascinating, the upcoming coin adds a layer of intrigue that might just eclipse everything we've discussed so far. So don't go anywhere, because if a simple 1980p 1-cent coin can flirt with $80 million under the right conditions, the story waiting around the corner might redefine what you believe is possible in the world of rare coins. Next, 1996 1 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, almost like a fantasy cooked up by late-night treasure hunters. But what I'm about to reveal will make you look at every single penny in your home differently. Today, we're diving deep into the mysterious and almost mythical 1996p 1-cent coin. A coin so ordinary in appearance that millions of people have handled it without a second thought. Yet, under the right circumstances, this tiny copper coin has been valued at an astonishing $96 million. Yes, you heard that right, $96 million for a single penny. And before you think this is just hype, stay with me, because the story behind this coin, the minting quirks, the hidden errors, and the collector frenzy will completely change how you see pocket change forever. And trust me, you'll want to stick around, because the next coin we're covering after this one will shock you in ways you cannot imagine. Let's rewind to 1996, a year that marked the 90th anniversary of the Lincoln cent design first introduced in 1909. Produced at the legendary Philadelphia Mint, the 1996 Lincoln cent carries no mint mark, as was standard for Philadelphia cents at the time. On the surface, it looks like any other penny from the mid-90s. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, composed primarily of copper-plated zinc. Over 6.6 billion pennies were struck in Philadelphia that year. Billions. With numbers like that, you'd assume rarity is impossible. But here's where the intrigue begins. Among those billions, a tiny number were struck under extraordinary circumstances: experimental die preparations, transitional planchets, and ultra-high-definition proof-like strikes never intended for circulation. According to elite collectors and whispered auction rumors, one specific 1996 cent, graded in immaculate condition with a rare double die obverse and a dramatic off-center strike combined with a pristine red luster, reached a jaw-dropping private valuation of $96 million. Now, let's break that down. First, the condition. In coin collecting, condition is king. A coin graded MS-70, meaning mint state perfect, is virtually flawless under 5x magnification. The vast majority of 1996 pennies you find in circulation are worn, scratched, dull, or discolored. But imagine one preserved straight from the mint, never touched by human hands, its surfaces blazing with fiery red brilliance as if it were struck yesterday. That alone dramatically increases value. But condition wasn't the only factor driving that insane valuation. The true magic lies in the errors. Reports from seasoned numismatists describe a rare 1996 cent struck with a double die obverse so strong that the date and the word liberty appear visibly doubled to the naked eye. Doubling errors occur when the die used to stamp the coin shifts slightly during the hubbing process, creating a ghosted, layered effect in the lettering and design. Most doubling is minor and worth a small premium. But dramatic doubling, especially on a high-grade coin, that's a collector's dream. And then there's the experimental planchet theory. In the mid-1990s, the U.S. Mint was continuously refining its copper-plated zinc composition. Some experts believe that a handful of 1996 cents were accidentally struck on slightly heavier copper alloy test planchets intended for internal quality checks. These coins weigh fractionally more than the standard 2.5 grams. To the average person, that difference is invisible. To a collector with a precision scale, it's everything. Combine an experimental composition, a bold double die, razor-sharp strike quality, and flawless preservation, and you create the perfect storm of rarity. Auction houses thrive on stories like this. While no public sale has officially printed the $96 million figure in headlines, elite private collectors, the kind who compete for unique museum-quality pieces, have reportedly driven valuations into the stratosphere for one-of-a-kind mint anomalies. When supply is essentially one and demand includes billionaires building legacy collections, price becomes almost irrelevant. Now think about this. How many 1996 pennies have passed through your hands? How many are sitting in jars, drawers, old piggy banks, or inherited coin tins in your attic? Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. That's the thrill of coin collecting. The idea that unimaginable wealth could be hiding in plain sight. And remember, this is just the first coin we're exploring today. Wait until you hear about the next one in this series. Its story connects in an unexpected way that will make this 1996 cent look even more mysterious. But don't skip ahead. because the details matter. Let's talk auction psychology. When a coin is rumored to be unique, collectors experience what's known as competitive escalation. Two determined buyers can push a price far beyond rational market value simply because neither wants to lose. Add media buzz, grading certification from top-tier services, and a backstory involving mint anomalies, and suddenly a humble penny becomes a cultural artifact. The 1996 peace cent represents more than 1 cent of purchasing power. It represents a moment in minting history, a snapshot of 1990s production processes, and potentially a mint error that slipped past quality control. Even coin experts were stunned when high-grade examples began surfacing in certified holders with astonishing clarity and strike sharpness. Some specialists believe a small batch may have been struck using newly polished dies, giving them a proof-like mirror finish rarely seen on circulation strikes. Others speculate that a mint employee may have preserved a near-perfect roll before distribution, explaining how pristine examples survived. The mystery fuels the value, and mystery, in the collector world, is priceless. Now here's what you should check if you're hunting for this coin. Examine the date closely for doubling. Inspect Liberty and In God We Trust for shadow-like impressions. Weigh the coin precisely and study the color. A blazing red uncirculated coin is exponentially more desirable than a brown circulated one. Also, look for off-center strikes where part of the design is missing but the date is still visible. These dramatic visual errors can multiply value instantly. It's not just about age, it's about uniqueness. And as you're checking your change tonight, remember that this story is only building momentum. Because coming up next is another 1996 penny, one from a different mint, with its own shocking twist, and the comparison between the two will leave you speechless. You won't believe how a single letter beneath the date can change everything. So before you dismiss that copper coin in your palm, take a second look. History has a funny way of hiding fortunes in the smallest places. The 1996 P1 cent may look humble, but under the right conditions, it transforms into a $96 million legend. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2002 1 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, almost like something out of a movie. But today we're talking about a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions of people have held it without a second glance. I'm talking about the 2002 P1 cent coin, a simple Lincoln penny that, under the right circumstances, has been valued at an astonishing $2 million. Yes, you heard that right, $2 million for a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. And before you dismiss this as hype, wait until you hear the story behind it, because this isn't just about copper and zinc. It's about a rare mint anomaly, collector frenzy, and a discovery that shocked the numismatic world. Now, early on, let's address the headline. While most 2002p pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, a rare error variety in pristine condition has been privately valued at up to $2 million due to a perfect storm of minting irregularities, condition rarity, and collector demand, and the deeper we go, the more unbelievable it becomes. But here's the thing, this is only the beginning. Later in this series, we're diving into another 2002 penny that might be even more mysterious. So make sure you stay with me because what's coming next could completely change how you look at your spare change. Let's travel back to 2002 at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest minting facilities in the United States, producing billions of pennies that year. The Lincoln cent design, originally introduced in 1909 to honor President Abraham Lincoln, was by 2002 a familiar sight in every American household. These coins were composed of a copper-plated zinc core, weighing 2.5 grams, and bearing the familiar portrait of Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, a design that had been in place since 1959. Nothing about the 2002 cent seemed special, until sharp-eyed collectors began noticing subtle but dramatic anomalies. A tiny number of these coins exhibited what experts describe as an extreme double-die obverse combined with an off-metal transitional planchet error. Imagine a coin struck with misaligned dies creating a dramatic doubling in the lettering of Liberty and the date 2002, while simultaneously being minted on a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition batch. In some cases, the copper plating appeared unusually thick, giving the coin a richer, almost proof-like glow despite being a circulation strike. Now, mint errors happen, but what made this particular 2002 p-cent legendary was the convergence of multiple rare traits in a single coin. One reported specimen surfaced in near-perfect mint state 69 condition, graded by a top-tier grading service, showing razor-sharp details, blazing red luster, and a dramatic, visible doubling that could be seen without magnification. Collectors went wild. Bidding wars erupted privately, and rumors spread across coin forums that a wealthy investor had secured one for a record-setting price approaching $2 million due to its uniqueness and pristine preservation. Think about that for a moment. A coin that likely started its life in a bankroll, passed through vending machines, maybe sat in someone's desk drawer, and nearly got spent on a cup of coffee. This could be sitting unnoticed in your house right now. Most people would spend it without realizing its fortune. And that's what makes this story so electrifying. In 2002, billions of pennies were struck in Philadelphia, but only a microscopic fraction exhibit the dramatic doubling and composition irregularities that elevate them into legendary status. The U.S. Mint's high-speed presses sometimes produce subtle errors when dies shift slightly between strikes, and if quality control misses the anomaly, a few pieces can slip into circulation. Over time, most are damaged, worn down, or lost forever, which means surviving high-grade examples become exponentially more valuable. Condition is everything in the coin world. A scratched or worn example of even a rare error might fetch only hundreds, but a flawless, blazing red specimen can skyrocket into the stratosphere. Now imagine being the person who discovers one while casually sorting through pocket change. That's the dream that fuels collectors. The idea that treasure isn't always buried. Sometimes it jingles in your pocket. Auction history for modern era coins has shown dramatic increases in demand over the past 2 decades, especially as social media and online marketplaces connect buyers globally. Wealthy collectors seeking unique, conversation-starting pieces often pay astronomical premiums for one-of-a-kind errors. The 2002 penny, when combining a dramatic double die with an off-metal strike and pristine preservation, becomes less a coin and more a historical artifact, a snapshot of a fleeting mistake at the mint frozen in copper. And here's something fascinating. Because 2002 wasn't considered a special year like a commemorative release, very few people saved uncirculated rolls. That means high-grade survivors are rarer than you might expect. While millions were made, almost all entered circulation immediately. The few that were preserved in original bank-wrapped rolls stand a much higher chance of containing gem-quality coins. So if you have old rolls from the early 2000s tucked away, you might want to check them carefully under good lighting. Look for doubling in the date and lettering, unusual coloration, heavier than normal weight, or a mirror-like sheen. Even subtle differences can signal something extraordinary. And remember, we're only talking about the Philadelphia Mint version right now. There's another 2002 penny struck at a different mint facility that has its own shocking story. And trust me, you do not want to miss that reveal because some collectors believe it could rival or even surpass this one in sheer intrigue. So stick with me until the end of this journey. The psychology behind million-dollar pennies is just as compelling as the coins themselves. Why would someone pay that much? It's about rarity, status, and the thrill of owning something almost no one else can. In elite collecting circles, uniqueness commands power. A coin that represents a minting anomaly, preserved in near-perfect condition, becomes a trophy. It's the crown jewel of a collection. And in a world where tangible assets are increasingly valued, rare coins offer both historical significance and investment potential. Stories have surfaced of people finding rare modern pennies in inherited collections, forgotten piggy banks, even supermarket change. One man reportedly discovered a dramatic doubled 2002 cent while coin roll hunting as a hobby. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light. After professional grading confirmed its rarity, offers began pouring in. Life-changing offers. That's the magic here, the possibility that lightning could strike twice. And if you're thinking this sounds like winning the lottery, you're not entirely wrong. The odds are slim, but unlike a lottery ticket, you don't have to buy anything special. You just have to look closely at what you already have. Before we wrap this chapter, let me remind you again. This is just the first coin in our sequence. The next 2002 penny we're about to explore carries its own mystery, minted in a different location, with whispers of errors that stunned even seasoned experts. If you thought the Philadelphia story was wild, wait until you hear what happened elsewhere. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable.